What up, everybody? Afro Millennial Mama here. Welcome. If this is your first time, thank you for stopping by. Thank you to my new subscribers. I have appreciated. In today's video, I will be talking about how I learned to speak 4 languages. Now, first, let me let you know which languages they are. I speak fluent English. Actually, I'm going to say 4 plus. So I speak American English. I also speak African American Vernacular English, which is a dialect of American English. I speak Spanish, fluent Spanish. I also speak French, and I'm okay at speaking Wolof, which is a West African tribal language. So let's go down the list, shall we? So first, English. My first language was African American Vernacular English and English. I learned simultaneously. Shortly thereafter, I learned Spanish. So I learned English, obviously, or maybe not obviously. I learned English in my home. Both of my parents are descendants of African slaves, if you will, in the U.S. So I have my grandparents all migrated from the South to Los Angeles, California, from Texas, South Carolina, and Mississippi. So the language that was spoken by most of my grandparents in the home was African American Vernacular English, which is a derivative of African languages and English, obviously, as some, just like how you have accents in different regions of a country. There's a different dialect and different accent, different words, there's a different way that is spoken due to the grammatical, it's not only grammatical, but I took a class on it, I think. There's also some phonetic sounds that are a part of our tribal languages, and they've been adopted into the way we speak English at times. So a lot of times, most African Americans will go in and out of English and African American English. So I learned that in the home, even though when I was a child, it was very frowned upon to speak African American Vernacular English because it was looked upon as being uneducated and not book smart, and you won't be able to get a job, things like that. But then as people started to study it, I believe one of the terms we call it Ebonics. I prefer African American Vernacular English because some people gave Ebonics a bad connotation. I don't know why. I guess just assuming that people are uneducated and that's why they speak that way, but that's not the case. Tell your friends that's not the case. If you speak quote unquote black, that is because of our African heritage. There are things that are passed down, just like eating watermelon, frying chicken, okra, things like that. All those things come from Africa. And so does our. I also learned Spanish as a child. I grew up here in Inglewood, which is basically interwoven with South Los Angeles. Inglewood is a small city, I guess you would say. Big ups to Mac 10 for putting us on the map. But Inglewood is a small city, and it's also interwoven with South LA. Like, I'm physically right now, I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm looking at my neighbor's house right across the street who's in Inglewood. And the way the border works, it's kind of like all like interwoven like this. So you cross the street, you're in LA, you cross the street again, you're in Inglewood. So Inglewood, South LA is pretty much the same thing, just Inglewood doesn't have LAPD. But so this is where I grew up. There's a lot of people from Mexico. This used to be a part of Mexico, California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego. All of this used to belong to Mexico, so there are people still here from those indigenous tribes, as well as the Spaniards who came and named all these streets that we have here and everything like that. So not only Mexicans, there are a lot of, back in the 80s, I think when I was a child, there was a lot of people that migrated from Central America, so Nicaragua, and especially El Salvador. There's a lot of people from El Salvador who live here. Inglewood has a high Central American population as well. So I went to school with people from Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Belize. And it's funny, growing up in LA, as just opposed to a place like New York, for example, where people are in their enclaves and they still keep their culture going. In Los Angeles, everyone's trying to blend in, so you can go to school, not know your friend is from Jamaica until you go to their parents' house and they're eating something different. Or your friend is from Nigeria, Belize. I actually didn't know until after graduating high school that a lot of my classmates were Belizean or Costa Rican, because it's not something that LA, I don't know if it's a Hollywood thing, I don't know if it's just we're not educated, because other places, I guess people are more prideful, maybe in New York or in the East Coast, because there's so many immigrants and immigrant cultures and communities. Here, when one comes here, you feel kind of lost because there's no neighborhood. And if you have a neighborhood, it's kind of off to the side. Like, unless you go to Little Ethiopia, you won't really see Ethiopians. Or unless you go to, some places, you won't know who you're coming in contact with. So a lot of times people assume that everybody who looks indigenous or Hispanic, that they are Mexican, but that's not always the case. So I learned Spanish in school as a child, and then high school and college, and but I wasn't really able to speak it as much until I started salsa dancing and listening to salsa music. Reggaeton was really hot when I was in high school. It was just like bubbling under the surface. That was the late 90s, and then the early 2000s when I was in college, I started to go to concerts and get immersed, and then I started seeing people who looked like me. My mom, one of her homegirls from church, was from Panama, and so I would hear her and her sister speaking Spanish, and I said, oh, so I could do that too, I guess. And so I think when I was young, I was really looking for a culture to fit into, because I never really felt like being American was enough, because everybody else seemed to be from somewhere else. And so you feel like everybody's exotic except you. And so when I was in school, I could read Spanish really well because I have an ear for languages. So I sound like I know what I'm saying when I actually might not have any idea. So my teacher would say, oh, are you from Belize? And I would say, ooh, I used to say in high school that I was from Panama because I saw people that looked like me from there. So I said, okay, I could be that. So then eventually people just call me that because I travel there a lot. I have play cousins. What's up to Yami? Hola. I have play cousins down there. So I go a lot and I take my daughter and things like that. So I started teaching my daughter Spanish, actually. So, I guess I could speak Spanish in the video. I don't know if you guys want me to or not, or I could do a whole nother video in Spanish. I thought about it and I was like, well, si empiezo a hablar español, la gente va a decir, ¿qué está diciendo? Y después tengo que poner ahí abajo lo que estoy diciendo. So I was like, I'll do a whole nother video in Spanish. So that way, those who like it, because I know us Americans don't like to hear people talk and we don't know what they're saying and we get all annoyed and like, go back to your country. So, so I'll save that for another video, but, cause I don't feel like translating everything that I'm saying. But that's actually, speaking of translating, that's what I studied in school. So I took interpretation in college, and I really, really learned how to harness my skills, because here in Los Angeles, people aren't used to seeing brown chocolate people speak Spanish, and it's like you speak and they're like, oh my gosh, and they flip out. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna get really good. So then when they want to say, test me like, oh, you don't speak Spanish, then I'll be like, yeah, buh, you're gonna see. So anyway, but there's a lot of us actually. I have a group of friends, it's about 100 people, and we're all most of us are African American or African, and then other people are Afro Latino. Like there's an Afro Latino community here in Los Angeles as well. So, but there's a lot of us that speak Spanish. It's just not shown a lot, I guess. And then let's go to French. So for French, I speak French okay, but not enough to like do business and stuff. I can definitely hold my own and understand most people. It just depends on how fast they speak, because in Paris, oh my gosh, it's just like, but I learned French. I went to school for French, maybe a year when I was in college, and then 1 year after, because I wanted to go to a French speaking country. I said, that would be so cool if I could speak. I've always wanted to speak 100 languages so I can have 100 friends and go all over the world. I always like connecting with people. As soon as I started speaking Spanish, my world opened up, my eyes opened up. I learned so much that I wouldn't have learned. I've been invited to people's homes in Puerto Rico, in Colombia, like all over the world. And those things wouldn't have happened if I didn't speak Spanish. So I said, well, what else am I missing out on? Like any language that Black people speak, I want to know. So like all the colonial languages, Portuguese is on my list. If I could speak to every black person in the world, like, that would be a dream come true. So that's my plan. But French I learned from my husband. Well, I was able to practice speaking it with my husband. And so he's from Senegal, which is a Francophone country in West Africa. I went there because I was taking a French class, and I met him, and maintenant je parle français. But French is like his second language. He speaks 4.5 languages. He speaks English, Italian. He speaks a lot. So I'm trying to catch up with him because I just speak 4.5. And once I learned French enough to be able to speak with my in-laws and everybody, then everybody flipped on me and started speaking Wolof on me, and I'm like, oh, so this is the language that you're supposed to speak when you like really, really down with the fam. So I said, okay. Then my daughter, and my husband's teaching my daughter Wolof because he saw that I was teaching her Spanish and he wanted to catch up. But I'm like, dang, we've been married all this time, you ain't even teach me. So I know enough. I mean, every time I go, that's the only way that I'm able to learn. Most of the time, I need immersion for a language. But even though I'm here in the U.S., I can immerse myself because the U.S. is a melting pot of different cultures. You just have to find them. And with YouTube and Netflix, you can watch movies and flip the language and change it. Like, I love just the exposure because I feel like our education system sucked because it didn't expose us to the whole world that's out there. But languages have really helped me to learn and connect with people, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So I speak 4 languages: Wolof, Nangadef, Mandinka, you know, all that good stuff. And I'll do a video. I don't think I could do a video in Wolof though. I'll probably have to do French Wolof together, maybe. And so I speak 4 languages, I would say. I'm a polyglot officially, but I want to speak 6, I think. Or, yeah, 6. English, French, Spanish, Wolof, and I want to learn Mandinka because that's my heritage, and also Portuguese, which I haven't been to Brazil yet. I haven't been to Angola. I haven't been anywhere they speak it. So once I go somewhere, I make contact with people, then I can get plugged in and know, you know, what YouTube videos to watch or what movies to watch and things like that. But that's pretty much how I learn, like music, TV, everyday life stuff. Like when people ask me, how'd you learn Spanish? And I'm like, life. I live in LA. I mean, books, TV, like the same way I learned English pretty much. And it took me a long time to figure out how to explain it. Like, I travel, but people travel, that don't mean they learn the language. So I just say living in LA, and they be tripping people out. They're like, but where your grandparents from? And it's like, yeah. So that's me. Yo hablo español, je parle français, damay jang Wolof, and I just want to keep going. I think more of us should be exposed to other places and not just travel all over the world and expect people to speak English everywhere we go. Like, so I will do videos in the future, me speaking Spanish. I'll probably do a whole video in Spanish of this same video, and then I will also do a French Wolof together video because I don't think I can do them by myself. I don't think. All right. I'm Afro Millennial Mama. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me. What's up to all the ride or dies out there? I love y'all so much. Y'all my peoples. Peace out.